He had been following the silence for 6 weeks, not the silence of ignorance. Veylan Drace had lived with ignorance for 30 years and learned to read its texture, but the silence of something hidden in plain sight, the kind that only forms when many people agree simultaneously not to speak. The compact could reactivate progenitor systems. That was the fact. The question was how, and the answer, he had come to believe, lay somewhere in the border territories, in the faith's abandoned institutions, in the gap between what the seminary vaults had once held and what they held now. He had not told anyone where he was going. He was not certain he would return. The intelligence trail had taken him through 3 neutral stations and 2 dead relays before it narrowed to a single data point. A faith seminary on the border world of Tessara, abandoned since the schism that followed his own heretical presentation to the council. A place the faith had left behind. A place, it now appeared, that someone else had found useful. Tessara received him the way border worlds receive all travelers who arrive alone and ask no questions, with the particular indifference of a place that has learned not to notice things. The seminary sat 3 kilometers from the nearest settlement, its pale stone towers visible above the tree line, and as he walked the hillside path toward the outer gate, he saw the first sign. Faith seminaries do not leave their gates open, not even abandoned ones. Someone had been here recently enough that closing the gate had not seemed necessary. He walked the approach corridor alone. The arched passage of pale stone ran long and straight, its walls hung with empty brackets, the devotional artifacts removed, the faith's teaching objects gone. Dried leaves had blown in from the courtyard beyond and settled in drifts against the base of the walls. He walked slowly, his long fingers trailing the stone, reading the bracket's absence the way he would read a text. Each bracket told him something. The objects had been taken systematically, not looted in panic. Whoever cleared this corridor knew what they were looking for. The chapel was worse. He stood at the threshold and let the damage speak. Pews overturned. The mosaic ceiling, Progenitor script rendered in glass tile, the faith's devotional interpretation of the Codex, harmless and beautiful and wrong in 17 specific ways, intact above the ruin below. And at the altar, the faith's open book lectern, its stone face scored with a compact interlocking rings glyph cut deep and recent, the edges of the cut still pale against the darker patina of the stone. He stood before it for a long moment. Then he went down into the vaults. The vaults were where the faith had kept its teaching artifacts, progenitor fragments of low significance, objects that produced light or sound or warmth when handled, used for centuries to demonstrate to seminary students that the radiant path scripture was not metaphor, but memory. The display cases stood open or shattered. Their velvet-lined interiors bore only the ghost impressions of objects removed. The air still carried the ghost of ozone and scorched metal. And at the vault center, a workbench of improvised alloy, cables run in bundles along the floor, calibration tools scattered across the surface. Someone had built something here. Beneath a scatter of discarded calibration tools, a single sheet of notation had been left behind, pressed flat by something heavy and then forgotten when the engineers departed. Veylan picked it up. The notation was in his hand, not copied from his hand. In his hand, his specific abbreviations, his idiosyncratic glyph compressions, the shorthand he had developed over 40 years of working with Progenitor script and never written down for anyone except the students he trusted most. He set the sheet down very carefully. His fingers had gone still. The perpetual invisible writing that occupied his hands in every waking hour had simply stopped. He stood in the vault's amber light and understood what he was looking at. This was not a theft of his work. This was a reproduction of his mind. Whoever had annotated these schematics had not merely copied his translation. They had absorbed his interpretive framework, the 40 years of accumulated intuition that lay beneath the notation like bedrock beneath soil. They had learned to think in his language, and they had used that thinking to build a device that could reach into any world's progenitor infrastructure and wake what had been sleeping. She came down the vault stairs 20 minutes later. He had known she was coming. He had heard her boots on the approach corridor's stone. And he had decided, in the 20 minutes between hearing her and seeing her, that he would not make her say it first. He turned when she reached the bottom step. Tessith Karen stood in the vault entrance in her plain-hemmed indigo robes, her auburn braids tight against her scalp, her grey-blue eyes meeting his with the particular steadiness of someone who has been rehearsing this moment for a long time. He said, "I recognize my own notation." She said, "I know." He said, "How much did you give them?" She looked at the workbench. She said, "Everything, the full translation, the return protocol key, the harmonic tables, everything I transcribed in the archive's outer chamber while you worked." She had been 19 years old when the ledger recruited her. She had been 23 when she transmitted his work. She was 25 now, and standing in the evidence of what that transmission had become, and her face held no plea for absolution, only the flat, clear-eyed accounting of someone who has stopped running from the number. Veylan crossed to the workbench. He picked up the notation sheet again and held it under the amber light. The device they had built from his translation, he could reconstruct its design from the calibration marks, from the cable routing still visible in the floor's dust, from the ghost of the workbench's surface. It was elegant. Whoever the Compact's engineers were, they had understood his work at a level that required not just the translation, but the interpretive framework beneath it. They had not merely copied his language, they had learned to think in it. A portable Codex interface. That was what the notation described. A field device, something that could be carried to any world, pressed against any progenitor substrate, and used to selectively reactivate dormant systems. Not the full network, not the command channel Sarithi had severed. Something smaller, more surgical, a device that could reach into a single system's progenitor infrastructure and restart it, locally, temporarily, at the cost of accelerating its long-term decay. Each activation burning 40 to 60 years from the system's remaining lifespan. The Compact was not stabilizing worlds, it was burning them on a longer fuse. Tessith had moved to the far end of the vault. She was standing before one of the empty display cases, her notation tablet open, her stylus moving. She said, without turning, "I know where they went, the 3 devices. I know the deployment systems." He waited. She said, "Calanthe, the Velaris Corridor Relay Station, Jessad Orbital." She closed the tablet. She said, "There was supposed to be a 4th. I don't know where the 4th was going. That's why I followed you here. I thought the record might still be in the vault." It was not in the vault. They searched for 2 hours, methodically, the way scholars search, which is to say with a systematic grief for what is missing. Every shelf, every shattered case, every cable bundle traced to its terminus. The vault yielded nothing about the 4th deployment. What it yielded instead was worse. A false panel in the vault's eastern wall, and behind it, a secondary workbench. And on that workbench, the schematics for not 3 devices, but 6. 3 deployed, 1 in transit, 2 in reserve. The Compact was not testing a capability, it was building an arsenal. He was still holding the secondary schematics when he heard the boots above. Not 1 set, 4, moving with the spacing of military formation. He and Tessith looked at each other across the workbench. She reached for her notation tablet. He reached for nothing. He had nothing to reach for. The boots descended the vault stairs with the particular economy of people who have already decided what they will do when they reach the bottom. Drazen fell came down the vault stairs the way large men move in confined spaces, carefully, with the particular economy of someone who has learned that his body is a liability in close quarters if he does not manage it. He wore iron tally field plate, matte black composite, the compact's interlocking ring sigil etched at the sternum in silver. His shaved head bore the blade-work scars across the crown. His flat dark eyes moved across the vault without cruelty, only focus. He took in Veylan, the workbench, Tessith, the secondary schematics in Veylan's hand. He said nothing for a long moment. Then he crossed to the eastern wall, reached past Veylan without touching him, and removed a single data chip from a magnetic clip inside the false panel. A chip so small it had been invisible in their 2-hour search. He held it between his fingers for a moment. He looked at Veylan directly. He said, "The Archon lives. Tell the Regent we said so." Then he turned and walked back up the stairs. His 3 soldiers followed. The vault was silent again. Veylan stood very still for a long time after the boots faded. Tessith said, "He left you alive on purpose." Veylan said, "Yes." She said, "They want you to transmit what you found. They want the Coalition to know what the devices can do." He said, "They want the Coalition to know they cannot be stopped. There is a difference." He set the secondary schematics down on the workbench. He smoothed the notation sheet with his palm. His fingers left ink shadows on the page. Then he turned toward the stairs. The seminary's communication relay was in the tower above the chapel. Faith infrastructure, decades old, still functional on backup power. Veylan climbed to it alone, while Tessith documented the vault's remaining evidence with her notation tablet, working with the focus speed of someone who knows the building may not be available tomorrow. The relay room was small and cold, its equipment dusty but intact. He sat before the console and composed the transmission with the same care he brought to translation. Every word chosen for precision, every number verified against memory. He encoded it for Lysara Ethernis on Ethan Prime. He named the 3 deployed systems. He described the device's design in enough detail that a Coalition engineer could recognize it in the field. He included his calculation of the infrastructure decay rate, each activation shortening the contested system's progenitor lifespan by an estimated 40 to 60 years. He named the 4th deployment as unknown. He named the reserve devices as 2. He transmitted. Then he sat in the relay room's cold silence and waited for the acknowledgement signal. Through the tower's narrow window, Tessara's temperate sky held its pale afternoon light, indifferent to what had just moved through it. Meanwhile, in the vault below, Tessith worked. Her stylus moved across the notation tablet in the shorthand system she had invented as a seminary student, the same system she had used to transcribe Veylan's translation for the ledger, turned now against the work it had enabled. She documented the workbench's dimensions, the cable routing, the calibration tool markings, the ghost impressions in the display cases. She recorded the 6 schematics from memory, redrawing them in her own notation with enough precision that a Coalition engineer could understand what they were looking at. She did not stop when her hand cramped. She did not stop when the amber light flickered. In the Regent's chamber on Ethan Prime, Lysara Ethernis stood at the head of the conference table and read the transmission as it resolved on the display column. The Regent's mantle moved with its own slow light, the star map threads tracing the territories under her nominal authority. She had watched 3 systems dim since taking office. She watched them now in a different way, not as losses but as targets already selected, already instrumented, already waiting for a signal from a station orbiting a trinary star where a woman with ash-blonde hair and bare, unadorned hands had already decided what came next. 3 points on the mantle's map pulsed: Calanthe, the Valaris Corridor, Jessad Orbital. They brightened, Progenitor systems reactivating, the compact demonstrating capability in real time, the transmission's arrival apparently triggering a prearranged display. Then they dimmed again, then they brightened once more, on and off, on and off. The difference between survival and extinction rendered as a light switch in a coat of living thread. Lysara pressed her hand flat against the table's pale alloy surface and held it there. The 3 points on her mantle pulsed in the silence of a room where no one had yet found the words for what they were witnessing. Somewhere in the galaxy, 3 worlds were being shown the same thing simultaneously, that the compact held the switch, that the switch worked, that asking the price was now the only remaining question. Veylan Drace received the acknowledgement signal in the seminary tower as the afternoon light on Tessara began its slow decline toward evening. He read the single word Lysara had attached to the confirmation: received. He sat with it. One word, carrying the weight of everything she had not said. The fleet she was already calculating, the systems she was already counting, the question she was already asking about a galaxy whose infrastructure was now a hostage in 3 places and a weapon in 6. He closed the relay console. He descended the tower stairs. He walked back through the chapel, past the defaced altar, past the scored compact glyph on the faith's lectern. He did not look at it. He went down into the vault where Tessith was still working, her stylus moving in the amber light, her grey-blue eyes focused on the page with the absolute concentration of someone who has decided that the only useful thing left to do is to record everything perfectly. He sat beside her. He picked up a blank notation sheet from the workbench. He began to write. The chronicler who recorded this day noted only that Archon Veylan Drace and his student remained in the seminary vault through the night, working by the light of faith backup cells that had no reason to still be burning. They produced, between them, a document of 47 pages, the complete technical specification of the portable Codex interface, the 3 deployment systems, the decay calculations, the reserve device count, and a single appended note in Veylan's hand that read, "The translation was mine. The weapon is not. The distinction matters." Whether it mattered enough, that question, like all the questions that followed, would be answered not in a vault on a border world, but in the systems where the lights were already going on and off, in the hands of a woman who had decided that the galaxy's infrastructure was hers to give or withhold. The Codex had been weaponized, the word had become a sword, and the man who had spent his life learning the language of gods sat in the amber dark and wrote,